challenge that we face in terms of working towards sustainable infrastructure is the lack of a common language to understand what sustainability actually really means to people. Everyone talks about it differently. Are we talking about carbon emissions? Are we talking about sustainable ethical procurement practices? Is it about social value? The terminology really matters, and yet I don't think we all drill down enough in it to really understand what it means. We do have the Construction Products Regulation, which tells you how a cable is going to perform in the event of fire. That's great. We ideally need something as succinct and to similarly talk about sustainability. At Eland Cables, we can share with you the life cycle analysis documentation for our cables, the foundations of an EPD, which can tell you how much embodied carbon is there when a product arrives on site. But you need to have benchmarks to compare to, you need to have common frames of reference and frameworks to work around. Otherwise, the terminology we use actually doesn't really mean very much. So what are those frameworks that we use? We've set science-based near-term targets for our emissions reductions. We're signatories to the UN Global Compact Sustainable Development Goals. We're rated silver medal status with EcoVadis for our ethical, environmental, human rights and sustainable procurement practices. There are plenty of other platforms as well, such as the Supply Chain Sustainability School, and together they all help align how we present and interpret that data and can help us build that common understanding and that common language. I can list out all the ways that Eland Cables are contributing to the data center industry sort of overall sustainability work. And I can tell you what we're doing as an individual business to reduce our carbon emissions. There's plenty of actions, but it means little, I think, unless you put it into context. As part of a wider supply chain, it's about what we do to support the sustainability goals of our clients and the initiatives that the contractors and consultants have at play. For instance, I can tell you that our owned fleet of HGVs all run on sustainable HVO biofuel, and we have electric vehicles too. But you need to frame it as this means that there's a reduction in embodied carbon in the cable because we manage the transportation, and HVO biofuel has a lower carbon emissions content than diesel fuel. Obviously, there are additional benefits to having an owned fleet. It means our drivers are fully contactable at all times, instant PODs. They're trained in cable handling so that cables aren't damaged during transit and during unloading at site, and that there's a 99.9% on-time delivery record. Again, actually, that relates to sustainability too, because what you don't want is downtime for contractors on site. There are journeys to site in multiple vehicles. There are man hours. There's plant equipment being run. All of these things need to be taken and looked at holistically, and actually the reliability of the delivery and making sure that the cables are in optimum condition for installation are hugely important. It's all part of a wider sustainability profile. We want to, what we want is for the industry to be able to tell us what they're doing, rather than us share just a blanket list of our actions. We'd love to know, what initiatives are at play out there, and then we can frame our services and what we do in a way that shows how we can support it. It's all about collaboration. It's about talking more. There's such huge interdependencies through any major data center project. And early collaboration can actually bring very real sustainability gains. And in ways that perhaps people don't necessarily think of. For instance, a steel wire armoured cable may in itself have more embodied carbon than perhaps an unarmoured cable would, the steel having quite a high carbon content. However, if that unarmoured cable is then being installed into concrete ducts, whereas the unarmoured cable could be buried directly, you've got to think about the wider installation design and the environmental challenges that are going to be at play to decide whether or not that one product and the embodied carbon in that one product are actually the most appropriate specification for the site. If you end up with higher embodied carbon in an electrical cable, but actually negating the need for concrete ducting, overall you're going to have a sustainability gain. So it's about working with product experts like ourselves and having that industry sort of collaboration that can really drive early sustainability gains and see much wider gains across a project. I think what's needed is to be able to communicate those sustainability goals right at the outset of a project, so that they're clearly laid out for everyone to see and understand how that they can provide input into them. It's very easy for us to list out all the ways that we can, provide sustainability gains, but it's that much more meaningful if we can actually tie them directly to initiatives and goals for that particular project. Is there an area of focus that we should be looking at when improving sustainability? Probably not. I don't think anything has too much focus currently. Every little helps. And that's actually hugely important in itself. There is no golden bullet to deliver a project sustainably. And you can risk getting paralysis by analysis and not doing anything because the concept of it all seems far too huge and to know where to start. There's no need to tackle it all at once. That's why it's about making a start and continuously improving, continuously iterating to make sure that you can continuously drive those gains. Sustainability is a huge topic, both in terms of its importance and in terms of its scope. So, it's impossible to tackle on its own. No one company has all of the answers. That's why it needs the whole supply chain to come together to do their individual parts, to become part of this much bigger whole. So the one thing I'd say that we need to do more of is to collaborate. Easy to say, hard to do, unfortunately, because of how and where suppliers get brought into projects. But as Eland Cables, we are absolutely open to having discussions with contractors and consultants at any stage of a project, just to be able to deliver our input and our help and see whether or not there's anything that from a sustainability point of view can be gained. So where's all the pressure to work more sustainably coming from? Probably we're our own biggest critics, our own harshest drivers. We're the ones as a company trying to do more and more. And that's based on having already made some substantial changes and delivered some pretty impressive results. The more you do, the more you want to do. The better you want to see that, you want to see that improvement. So actually we're not necessarily being driven by our clients. We're driving the conversations ourselves, and actually helping our customers realize where sustainable gains can be made. I would love it to flip round and for the industry to be the ones that are really pushing us. But I think we are currently doing an awful lot of work, and it is a very major focus for us as a business. And every aspect of our operations has been looked at through that sustainable lens, which means that actually we are delivering results and delivering those gains that people need.